This is Starforged, Tabula Rasa, written and performed by Redstone Archender. Based on the game by Sean Tompkin. Hello and welcome to Starforged Tabula Rasa, the Halloween special 2021. I feel like adding the year is rather presumptuous, but it is what it is. I'm really enjoying this, so hopefully we'll do another Halloween special. Maybe there'll be like The Simpsons, Treehouse of Horrors, and we'll have something interesting each time. This is not going to be that good. I apologize. But the idea that I have is that back at the beginning, we realized half of this ship, the port side, seems to be haunted. Or it had a mysterious feeling of dread over on that side. But why? What is over there? At some point, seeing as it takes 6 hours to recharge the E-drive, and sometimes there's not a whole lot around them, at some point, he's going to go investigate the port side. And I don't know why it's scary over there, but I assume it's something bad. And it's the Halloween special. So we're going to find out. We're going to learn a little bit about this ship, and it's going to be some oracle tables, and then I'm going to tell a story. Alrighty, so one of the questions I have, so luckily I have lots of other dice, but I am going to see over on the port side, or at least on the starboard side. So if you're in the bridge facing out of the ship, port is your left and starboard is your right. And the way I remember it is port and left have the same amount of letters, and right and starboard have more. So, but I'm assuming symmetrical. I'm assuming there were 4 berths on each side, even though on this side it looks like one had been double spaced. But let's see how many of those were taken. I'm going to roll a d4, and that is 4. Alrighty, so let's find out who the 4 people are. So we're going to get some names and their role, and I'm just going to use the role table from, like, if you're doing characterization and you don't have an idea, you can roll off there. So we're going to have, it's 87, a mechanic by the name of, and 89, Tomiko. 69, Griffin. Tomiko Griffin, a mechanic. 83, the captain, the former captain, who was 68, Magnus. 84, Dykstra. Magnus Dykstra is our captain, was the captain. We have 71, a smuggler. 59, Kyler, Kylar. And 25, Jensen. Kyler Jensen, a smuggler. That's cool for the ship. Nice. 31, a bounty hunter. Oh, shoot. Was her, who is this? That is 03, Alyssa, and 7, Cade. Alyssa Cade, a bounty hunter. Ooh, here's a question we have to have. Was Evelyn already on board at this point? So 50-50. Whoa, that is an 84. That's a yes. She definitely yes. Did Janya take over the ship? And I'm going to say that's likely. I'm going to say it's almost certain. So 11 or higher. That is a 53. That is a yes. Although this was Janya previously, but did he come on board using that name, or was it a different name? I'm going to do 50-50. So if he 51 or higher, he came on board as Janya. Oh, that is 16. That is a no. Well, then what name did he take? Let's do... We get Logan. I'm going to go with Khosla, but to me it says coleslaw. Kind of like coleslaw, just a little bit. And weirdly, I think that, because this is a different person than who we now know, because memories have changed, like been erased. I think skills have been learned and unlearned. I think this was a very different person. I think we just learned that we're going to call him Logan because that was, it's coleslaw. It's coleslaw. Like to have weird, I think we find out if we look back, maybe that was why it was so easy to realize Janya Alder was the real name, because all of the other last names that he uses are subtly food-based. We've learned something about old Janya. We're just going to call him Coleslaw. Coleslaw, he's taken over the ship. So what I'm going to do is not actually, I'm going to record it on paper, but I'm going to figure out how each of those people died and then try to tie that together and then tell you the story. There aren't evenings or mornings on a ship, not really. It's all artificial, but we get into a rhythm of things. And Janya was out of his rhythm. They jumped into a system, and normally after piloting, he's tired and would like to sleep, but he finds himself restless. He finds himself the curiosity of what is on that other side of the ship. A side he hasn't stepped on yet, but he needs to. He needs to know what happened over there. Something is calling to him, and it's, well, he's got a funny, itchy feeling on the back of his neck. So he goes to the other side, and he finds that that the port side of the ship is pretty much a mirror of the right, at least externally. Visually, he sees that there's like 4 cabins, and he goes to touch the entrance to the first one closest to him, and he has a vision. He has a vision of, well, looks to be himself, but he's wearing clothes he's seen in there, but he's never worn. They look too different, too complicated. There's too much going on. It feels like it takes a lot of time to get ready. And he's with someone. He's with, must assume, the occupant of this room. And they have the wildest hair and wildest clothes that, well, Janya has a pretty limited memory. Although he's been on a few places, he hasn't seen that quite wide variety of clothing as this person is. And it is Alyssa. He knows that it is someone. He realizes that Coleslaw and Alyssa had worked together, and he sees them in discussion, but he can't make out what they're saying. And now we flash to Janya kind of like steps back, and he walks over to the next door, and he touches it, and he sees Coleslaw sitting across from a rather tired-looking older gentleman, and Magnus, the captain of the ship, is speaking to Coleslaw, and we hear that Coleslaw is being hired on as a new tech for the ship. And one of the things that is sweetening the deal is that Coleslaw already has a client lined up. So if you hire me on, I already have a gig for us that'll make us some money. I know a incredibly up-and-coming merchant who's a little, you know, the rich are, but they're a merchant and they need some business done. And if we can show that we can get our merchandise to the right places, you know, without notice, it would be some good money for us. Because this is not a known smuggling ship. It's just a ship that could be really good for smuggling. It especially given its ability to feed its occupants, it can do things a little bit longer term and a little bit more remotely. We see the captain extend his hand, and they shake, and then Coleslaw puts his hand on the iron slate that's in the desk. That traditional, you know, swears a vow that he will be loyal and true. And then Janya steps back from the door as the vision kind of snaps. And then after Janya collects himself, he moves on to the third door, and he touches that. And he sees himself, or he sees Coleslaw in the engine room. But it's spotless. It is gleaming. And Janya is tinkering with a piece of equipment that's on a table. There's tools around him, but he looks like he's being secretive, like he's kind of glancing over his shoulder every once in a while, a little more often than someone normally would, unless they just had a gallon of coffee. And then we see him finishing up, straightening up some tools, right as Tamiko Griffin walks in coveralls, tool belt, all sorts of gadgets hanging off their belt, and is actually just rather indifferent to what what Coleslaw is doing, which seems to just be tidying up. and picks up the device that Coleslaw was just tinkering with and requests a few of the tools that are actually right in front of Coleslaw that he was training. He hands them over, and then Tomiko starts installing the part into like the central engine column. And then back in the present, Janya steps back from the door. Janya takes a breath, collects himself, goes to touch that last door. And then we see Coleslaw running into Kyler Jensen, who seems to just, the clothing they wear kind of would just blend into the background of almost any place. He's kind of just in the middle, decent worker clothing, something that would just fade into the background. And they have the biggest grin on their face and is excited to see a new crew member, and hey man, like, you can call me Deuce because I'm the shit. Yes, I am sorry, but that is what he sees. Coleslaw internally cringes, but like sucks it up and meets him, and then he's trying to impress him and brings him back to this cabin here. And in a small corner is a cage, and it's a pretty small cage for housing. It's Evelyn. Evelyn is locked in this cage. It's actually like built into the wall. That way there's actually like some automatic feeders and cleaning, but it's tiny. And at the time, Coleslaw didn't know how to communicate with glowcats, but because Janya is seeing what happened, he can actually see that she is begging for help. And Kyler is explaining how he's got somebody who he's taking this to that's going to be able to skin a glow cat and be able to use the fur because of its iridescent qualities, and like can make it keep these colors. And it's gonna be so much money. So much money. These creatures are worth so much. And then Janya jumps back because he doesn't want to know what Coleslaw was going to respond with. He can intellectually know that he might have said whatever just to keep clearly a cover on the ship, but he's not sure what his former self would have actually said. So now Janya has a sense of who these people were, a little bit, but not what's happened. So he goes back to the first door and focuses on how did things end, and touches that door, and he sees Alyssa and Coleslaw in part of what is now Janya's quarters, and Alyssa is pacing. Wait, you were tinkering with what part of the E-drive? I don't really know. Not really a tech. I just know that if it fries him, then that's one less crew member we have to deal with. You realize we still have to pilot the ship? That if you break the ship, we are screwed. Ah, well, and Coleslaw seems dumbfounded by this. Oh, that's a good point, huh? But but back to my plan, because here's the thing. You can slit a man's throat or stab him in the back, but you can't keep a sentient creature just in a freaking cage. So I can't believe you're on that right now. There's literally, you're just casually talking about a murder when you are literally trying to commit one through something that might blow up the whole ship and kill us all. I gotta go get that cat out of that cage, because it is just bothering the hell out of me that if you would have seen the colors, I think you'd be helping. And she storms out. We see her storm out of Coleslaw's cabin and head towards engineering, and they open the door right as a blast hits them. And the blast keeps coming out for a second or two more, and it's fading off, but it just knocks them like out into the hydroponics area, 30 feet at least. And Janya steps back from the door, having seen how one person really didn't survive, and takes a moment to collect himself. Touches the captain's door, and we see the captain talking to Coleslaw, explaining that they've done an autopsy on Alyssa because they weren't sure actually what killed them. Like, although they were knocked back some feet, they didn't seem to be, like, it wasn't enough of a fall to kill them. But Tomiko is literally missing, and there's the burned outline of burned silhouette. So they're trying to piece together what's happened, and the captain has done an autopsy to try to figure out what may have happened. But they are sweating. They seem overly tired, overly pale. Something seems to be really wrong. And they're explaining to Coleslaw that they have to go into the engine room and figure out what has happened, because it looks like 2 people have died. Something else could be going on with the engines. You've got to fix this. You have to fix this. Kamiko's gone, and they're not doing well. And although Coleslaw leaves, we watch as the captain just gets paler and paces more, and is still holding that scalpel. And goes looking for something. And they're leaving the cargo hold, and they end up inside the cabin of the smuggler. But the smuggler's gone, and the cabin is completely void of life. And Janya steps back because it was just a horrible feeling just coming over him. This need to stick that scalpel into something. And he unclenches his hands and takes a breath. Kind of stretches his back and kind of paces up and down the corridor a bit and just is not paying attention. Just so distracted by that last vision that when he puts his hand back on the mechanic's door, he's shocked as the vision happens. He's usually been preparing himself. So we see the Deuce and Coleslaw in engineering, and the Deuce is like, no, it's definitely, the E-drive, see this piece, it is completely out of alignment. It was spewing out like some strange energies, man. You gotta understand, like, to travel through drift space, it's got some weird stuff, man, like, and whatever shot out, super screwed up the commands in, like, the nanobots that were in Alyssa's blood, and so now it's turned the captain to a killing machine, man. And do we hear banging on the doors? We know that they're just right outside, and Coleslaw is like, you gotta trust me on this. We have to make the Glowcat a member of crew so that they can blow the airlock and knock this thing out. Man, there's no way you're asking me to just. There's no way that's gonna work. There's no way you can explain to a cat how to. Like, I'm telling you, these creatures are sentient. They are way smarter than you're giving it credit for. It's like, fine. And so they do the authorization. Coleslaw actually uses the ship's comms to tell, well, we now know their name to be Evelyn, what's going on. And then Janya steps back from the door. And when he's ready, he just sits down and meditates, gets himself truly centered, and he just watches the rest. As Kyler/Deuce and Coleslaw, they end up fixing the engine, or they get it somewhat going. They end up exiting the other way out of engineering and end up leading, because it's not that big, but they just go the other way out of engineering, but they're still into the large aquaponics area, so that the captain sees them running towards the aft of the ship, which is the back end. Unfortunately, the smuggler ends up being not quite quick enough and is taken down by the captain, and Coleslaw makes it to the cargo bay. We see the cargo bay doors open. Coleslaw goes in, and a little while later, running forward, just covered in blood, is the captain. And we follow the captain in, and he's searching the cargo bay, Coleslaw, and we see out of the air ducts hops out Evelyn, and then crawls out Coleslaw, and they override the controls, blow the airlock, and shoot the captain into space. This week's episode featured music by Tabletop Audio.
To learn what happens, keep listening. This show is brought to you ad-free by privilege. No ads, no Patreon, just a cishet white man with disposable income and time. It is performed, edited, and all that good stuff by Redstone Archender. The story is powered by the game Ironsworn, Starforged by Sean Tompkin. Outro by Glitter Snitchel, channeling the spirits. This has been a Sofa King Cool production.